Good morning. Welcome to the Premium Public Video Forecast discussion for Friday, November 1st, 2024. We start off in the tropics, where I'm sure you've heard a lot of talk about a potential disturbance organizing here in the Caribbean. Right now, it is, well, not really developing all that much. We have a weak disturbance here with no trough, but you see how the clouds are getting ripped off this way? This is a perfect example of vertical wind shear. So this is not likely to develop. Now, we are moving into a favorable MJO phase. And what that basically means is that the environment for rising air is improving for the Caribbean Sea. And that means that more thunderstorms could develop, and you could develop a low pressure system maybe this weekend or early next week. At this time, there's nothing, as you can see, nothing at all. So, yes, there is a 40 to 60% chance of something trying to organize here. And we'll be keeping an eye on it through the weekend, but no immediate threat at all. No threat to the United States at this time. We'll keep an eye on it. The model guidance does suggest some sort of development and then a track towards either the Yucatan Peninsula or towards the Gulf of Mexico, in which then we would have to watch out for the central Gulf Coast and maybe even the eastern Gulf Coast in 10 days. But you have to take a real significant grain of salt with this solution because we don't have a low level circulation. And as we have learned, tropical systems are very, very fickle. They can rapidly intensify, they can rapidly weaken. And sometimes model guidance overplays the development of these systems, which we have seen also throughout the tropical Atlantic season this year. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it. Right now, there is no low level circulation out there, no organization of convection or anything of that nature. So we'll keep an eye on it and see what pops up over the next 10 days. But a lot of guidance is suggesting, hey, watch out, Yucatan Peninsula. I think anyone traveling down in this area, anyone traveling towards the Caribbean in the middle of the hurricane season, probably not the best idea. Would it be cheaper? Sure. Is it smart? Probably not. So, yeah, not the best time to be down in the Caribbean at this time. Give it a couple months, like December, January. That's better off. Now, let's talk about the evolution of our weather pattern. And of course, we're keeping an eye on our developing La Nina. Notice where the coldest waters are. Okay, so we have the scale down here. They're all in the eastern zones. So that is, excuse me, started to cough there. Okay, so that's all in the eastern zones here. And this is really important to point out as we try to establish this La Nina. The focus is away from the dateline, which means you have better potential, not a guarantee, but a better potential for more convection forming towards the dateline this winter. And the more convection you develop here, the more likely you end up with a trough here. That doesn't guarantee high latitude blacking or anything of that nature, but certainly something that I am watching very carefully. This evolution here still suggests a weak La Nina state. We'll see what the sea surface temperature averages are as we move forward over the next couple of days and get the latest updates for next week. But right now, the average is that your La Nina conditions of a half degree below normal is focused here in Nino 3.4, but we're approaching in Nino 1 plus 2 and Nino 3. And it looks like the latest daily observations suggest we are certainly moving in that direction. While that is all happening, you can see the MJO here is currently moving into phase 7. Phase 7, 8, and 1 is when you have more favorable conditions in the tropical Atlantic, like we discussed. And also, as we move into the winter, more favorable phases, especially with the weak La Nina, for low pressure system development. When the along the East Coast and better potential for polar air masses and yes, winter storms. When the MJO is in phases 4, 5, and 6, well, not so much, more likely a ridge. So we're moving out of the ridge phase, as you know, because it has been very, very dry. And we're moving more towards the potential for, at the very least, very potential for some cyclogenesis, some low pressure system development, some threats for showers. So certainly moving in that direction. Meanwhile, one thing that I was bringing up to premium members, and I wanted to bring up today, I was very surprised to see the QBO is already moving into an east descending phase. What does this mean? Okay, so when the QBO is in a westerly phase, which it is right now, it enhances the potential for the polar vortex to be strong. When it moves into an easterly phase, like what we were last year, you have a higher potential for disruption. Now, I don't think we move into a full easterly phase here. That would be incredibly surprising. That would be a huge wild card that I didn't even think would be a potential. But this signal here will tell me that at the very least, the westerly phase of the QBO may be at its highest strength right now. And the weaker that QBO phase is, the less impact it has on the polar vortex development and the better potential for the development of high latitude blocking. So this is something I'm certainly keeping an eye on. And then, of course, we take a look at the latest forecast here. And while, again, this isn't a break, certainly plenty of signs of stretching. Now, why isn't this a cold pattern for us? Well, the stretching is oriented in such that you have the strongest features off towards Russia. So your broader trough is here. You have a trough here around the Aleutians building into the Gulf of Alaska, but you get this cross Pacific flow across the United States. Basically, in order to produce a cold weather pattern, you want this flipped. Okay. Now, this feature here is standing out because I am very interested in this feature because it supports a stronger upper level low around the Canadian Maritimes. And let me see if I can pull up the latest 500 millibar forecast on the European, and you can see how that influences the weather pattern here at 500 millibars. Again, this is at 50 millibars. Interesting stretching setting up here. This is still a mild pattern because you have your Pacific air mass flooding the United States. This could feature maybe a backdoor cold front or something of that nature that would watch out for in about 10 days. But you can see at 500 millibars, what that sets up here is here is your convergence of confluence. So maybe you get like a high pressure system here in Maine or in the Gulf of Maine, sending a maritime polar air mass southward. But again, the overall 500 millibar pattern, because of this broad upper level trough here from the Aleutians into the Gulf of Alaska, sets up a Pacific pattern that floods the United States and locks up all your polar and Arctic air basically in this area right here. So that's why it's a mild pattern, even though you have a stretching of the polar vortex going on. This is a process. This is a perfect example of why orientation and location matters quite a bit. It's not just the stretching of the polar vortex, it's how is it being stretched. So in this situation, it would lead to a mild weather pattern. The point I want to make today is that the pattern is such that the potential for disruption of the polar vortex via stretching is very much on the table. So the idea of just a strong polar vortex locking up all the polar and Arctic air masses and no high latitude blocking is less likely based on these observations and this model data. So it's something very interesting to study as we move forward over the next several weeks. Now, in the meantime, it is mild out there. We have a cold front that's approaching, and yes, those are showers in eastern Pennsylvania. So we might actually see some rain here setting up. Temperatures range generally from the mid to upper 60s over much of the region. A few lower 70s are mixed in there with variable cloud cover, winds from the southwest around 5 to 15 miles per hour. You can see here on the latest SPC analysis here, some of the lifting. Now, as I've been saying for the past couple of days, Your best lifting is going to be focused to our north and west. That's why these showers aren't going to be widespread or heavy or anything of that nature. Instead, you get a lot of weak lifting associated with this cold front moving through. And that's why the showers really aren't all that impressive. A lot of this is unfortunately not reaching the ground, but there will be some reports of rainfall here and there as this cold front is moving through. And so our ridge axis is gone, our broad trough takes hold, but don't worry, we will have pleasant weather just in time for the start of the weekend. We just have to get this polar air mass to move through. And again, on the water vapor satellite picture, there's our cold front, there's our focus of moisture. Beyond that point, after that, dry air, quiet weather pattern, a little bit cooler, a little bit more seasonable. So this cold front moves through, and then plenty of sunshine for the rest of the weekend as tranquil weather conditions take hold. And you can see that here in the 500 millibar forecast here. After the shortwave moves through this weekend, you get a ridge axis. And oh, by the way, remember, tomorrow night, you have to fall back with your clocks as we fall back 1 hour on Saturday night into Sunday morning. So definitely be prepared for that and expect tranquil weather conditions when that happens. And no real major storms over the next 10 days. Now, there's that upper level trough I was talking about. So we have to watch to see just how far south and west the that polar air mass gets in the next 10 days. Again, after this cold front moves through, not much in the way of moisture in the atmosphere, pretty dry out there. And at 850 millibars, we lose our very, very warm, record setting air mass that gets pushed out into the Atlantic. There's our modified polar Pacific air mass takes hold. And then we warm back up again, but only for a short period of time for the end of next week. And again, we'll watch to see this polar air mass come in to see how much influence it has over our neck of the woods for next weekend. So let's dive into this forecast for today. Cold front moves through with a few widely scattered showers. High temperatures mostly this morning in the mid to upper 60s over the northern interior, lower to mid 70s in the New York City metro, mid to upper 70s in the Philadelphia metro. By this evening, the cold front clears out, skies clear, temperatures begin to fall with low temperatures by tomorrow morning in the mid to upper 40s. By tomorrow afternoon, high pressures in place with clear skies. Look for high temperatures in the lower to mid 50s over the northern interior, upper 50s to lower 60s along the coast. On Sunday, high pressure remains in place with tranquil weather conditions. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s in your suburbs, lower to mid 40s in your urban areas. High temperatures will rebound very nicely into the mid to upper 50s. So, seasonable temperatures for this time of year for this weekend. On Monday, high pressure begins to exit with sky cloud cover. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s in your suburbs, and lower to mid 40s in your urban areas. High temperatures will rebound into the lower to mid 50s over the northern interior, mid to upper 50s in the New York City metro, lower to mid 60s in the Philadelphia metro. On Tuesday, our high pressure system continues to exit further off the coast. We get a stronger southwesterly wind, which means warmer temperatures. Still, sky cloud cover for the most part. Look for low temperatures in the upper 40s to lower 50s over the northern interior and in your suburbs, mid to upper 50s in your urban areas. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 60s over the northern interior, upper 60s to lower 70s in the New York City metro, lower to mid 70s in the Philadelphia metro. On Wednesday, a weak trough will pass through with a few widely scattered showers. The cold front follows later in the evening. Look for low temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 50s over the northern interior, upper 50s to lower 60s along the coast. High temperatures ranging from the mid to upper 60s over the northern interior, lower to mid 70s along the coast. On Thursday, the cold front drops through with a few widely scattered showers. Look for low temperatures in the upper 50s to lower 60s, high temperatures in the mid to upper 60s over the northern interior, lower to mid 70s in the New York City metro, and upper 70s to lower 80s in the Philadelphia metro. And by next Friday, high pressure will be in control with scattered cloud cover. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 40s over the northern interior, mid to upper 40s in your suburbs, upper 40s to lower 50s in your urban areas, and high temperatures in the mid to upper 50s over the northern interior, lower to mid 60s in the New York City metro, mid to upper 60s in the Philadelphia metro. That's your forecast discussion for today. Have a wonderful day. And as always, stay safe out there.